Welcome back to Salem's Ministries of the Occult. I'm Haley. This is Sarah. And we've got quite a few topics for you guys today. So if you're wondering why we have like plants and stuff and like the table is pushed away,
it's because no, I'm not going to say that. That's bad. I was going to say we're crackheads, but
these aren't crack.
No, we're herbalists.
I mean, unfortunately, we're not that either. But yeah, so Sarah was gifted a whole bunch of like herb cuttings and
from my stepmom because she's awesome. She has a whole herb garden and it's so sick. Like I'm so jealous. Oh my god, she has like everything. She's got yarrow, guys.
Well, I mean, now that she knows like how excited by herbs you are, you're probably gonna get a shit.
I know, and I'm so excited.
And honestly, like when you go to start your own like garden, she'll probably give you cuttings to like start it. Yeah,
I'm so happy.
But yeah, so she is like well versed in like washing and drying and preserving herbs. So that's what we're in the process of doing with this.
Because we also got echinacea, and I'm like,
yeah. So it's this is the drying process. They'll probably be here for a few weeks.
Yeah,
and then we'll go.
It takes a hot minute.
We'll go from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you guys want like updates on that process, on like how to do that,
hit my shoes. Jeez. I'm not wearing J's.
No, you're wearing boots.
I don't remember where I got these boots.
It's okay. Anyway, what I was trying to say, if you guys want update videos on this process, because I know for me, I always thought it was like really interesting how people like preserve herbs, but I personally did not have any experience, and it's one of those things where you're like, if I do it wrong, I could poison myself.
And then I just am a jack of all trades that knows a little bit about a little bit of everything, because I'm like, ooh, that sounds really cool, and my ADHD hyperfixation for the week is gonna be that.
Yeah. So, and I know we kind of cut out the washing process because we didn't really think about we're really bad about remembering to record things in the moment.
Plus my kitchen is a total mess and I don't want you to see it.
Also really, really valid. So the washing process was, I mean, does it matter if it's cold or hot water?
I mean, what I do personally is I start out with soaking them in hot water with vinegar in it, and then I rinse them with cold water.
And about how much vinegar does it have to be?
I just do a splash. So it's not really that much. You just kind of like splash.
Would you also say that it could just be like your preference? If you want more in there, then you can put more in there?
Yes.
Okay. And
also, you don't have to use vinegar. You can use other things like baking soda, or don't use bleach, especially if you're going to be
ingesting.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about the different burial practices from different parts of the world. These are by no means all of the different burial practices. These are just the more common ones that we were able to find in a quick Google search.
That's facts.
So yeah, this is really fun. I know we've both been really looking forward to making this episode. I did give you guys an option for a poll with 3 different options. Unfortunately, no one commented, so you're stuck with burial practices today.
None of you commented?
Yeah. Which, we have a game plan in place to hopefully get some more traction, which is we're going to post more on TikTok. Yay. And yes, I did finger guns, unironically. Don't come for me. Anyways, we have quite a few different burial practices to go over today. They're all really cool, really fun, really exciting. Kind of gives you some ideas on what to do with you when you're dead.
I love thinking about what I'm gonna do when I die.
Right? It also gives you like, some of these also give you like a different way of thinking about death.
You know what's really awesome? I can perform funerals.
You know what I think is really, really fucked up about like funerals and like burial practices and shit? Because we live in America and like Western society, there are a lot of things that are not legal because they can't understand them.
And that's stupid.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, if it was possible, I would I would have to go to Maine to be able to do this. But I would want my body to be put on a boat and set in the middle of like a little like creek or something and like
light you on fire. Yeah, like the Vikings.
Yeah.
It'd be so cool.
It would be so sick. And plus, also, I know how to do archery, so like if one of my friends wanted,
I was about to say you can't do archery if you're dead.
I know, but like if one of my friends wanted that, I could do that. I could perform their funeral service, and then I could literally do. Would that not be so sick?
It would be.
Like I just show up in like, I don't know, priestly robes,
shield maiden attire.
Oh yes!
Yeah.
Oh, I so could. Oh, I could show up dressed like Joan of Arc or something. You don't think that'd be cool?
I mean, I don't think it's very fitting with the.
I mean, it's not. Either that, or I could quite literally just like, I don't know, I could show up half naked. I don't know.
That would be fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So,
okay, sorry.
yeah, off topic
That was
as
a weird
usual.
tangent. ancient Greeks, because I love the ancient Greeks. They're so cool. I love them deeply. I'm not that kind of channel. It could be. So the ancient Greeks' funerals' main purpose was to guide the deceased to the underworld and to ensure rest. Because they want their people to be at peace, which is so nice. I like it. Women played a very important role in the process by washing and preparing the body. And the ceremony is usually performed within, it's usually about like a day of the death, because they did not like, they were impatient. They were like, no, we gotta get this bitch to the underworld yesterday.
Well, they were also very clean people.
Yes, which is amazing.
So they were probably like, they probably had experience with like, if they waited, then there's smells and there's like infestations of
The ick.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yep.
So they were probably like, nah, get them out.
Get them out of here now.
We didn't build aqueducts for nothing. Get them out.
But the three main stages of their funerals were prothesis, which is the deceased is laid out on a bed inside for mourning, often with a coin in their mouth or two on each of their eyes to pay, how do I pronounce this? Fuck.
Is it
Charon? Sharon?
I think it's
Chiron.
I think it's Charon.
I think it is. I think you're right. To ferry them across the river Styx.
Yeah.
It was also believed that helped keep the eyeballs closed.
Yes, and if you didn't have those coins, Charon would not ferry you across the river, and you would have to wait on the riverbanks for like 100 years.
See?
Yeah.
And then there's Ichthora. I can't remember how to pronounce that. I wrote these notes like a month ago.
It's fun.
Yeah. Solemn pre-dawn procession carried outside the city walls to a burial ground, which is super cool. And then you have the burial/cremation. Both were done. Dead often accompanied with jewelry, weapons, and pottery. Proper burial was very important, otherwise the soul would wander. Period. Tombs were periodically visited with food and drink offerings called libations to ensure rest for the soul, which I enjoy that.
Greeks and Romans were very big on food offerings.
It reminds me of whenever my great-grandmother passed, her birthday came around. And I was like, so we're just not going to celebrate her birthday? And everyone was like, what do you want to do? Take a cake to her grave? I was like, we can take cupcakes. That way we don't have to worry about like plates and everything. And they were like, me, Grace, and my Aunt Teresa, we went and did it. It was a very nice time. I have pictures from it.
I periodically think about taking yoo-hoos up to see my papa.
As you should.
Because that was our thing. We would go to a gas station and get yoo-hoos. So I have bog bodies, and I love these so much. Okay, the first time I ever heard of bog bodies, I was in college, and my English professor was talking about them because she did like her master's in like old English Victorian type literature. So she knew a lot of like the times.
Did you know a lot about the Canterbury Tales?
Yes.
I knew it.
Yes, she did. So the oldest known bog body is the Kohlberg man. He was found in Denmark, and the body was dated to be about 8,000 BC. So he died and was buried in the Mesolithic period.
You're about to go.
No. The oldest with flesh that's been found is the Cashel man. He was found in Ireland, and he was dated to have been around 2000 BC, which was the Bronze Age. And something that I did not realize was we have more recent bog bodies that have been found, and these bodies were the soldiers of World War II.
Okay, that's sick.
Right. And we're going to get into how these are created. So, the majority of bog bodies date to the Iron Age. They are also typically found in Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Britain, Sweden, Poland, and Ireland. But they can be found anywhere where peat bogs cover a large bit of the landscape. So the bog bodies of the Iron Age share some similarities. The similarities would be like what they tell us about the society at the time. So what we've been able to determine is that these societies had a known cultural tradition of killing and depositing people in a certain manner. The people of these societies were agriculturalists. They raised animals, they fished, they lived off of the land, basically. It was also determined that these societies managed to stay separated from the Roman Empire, but they did initiate in trades with the Romans. So that was really interesting to me because the Roman Empire was like really prevalent during these times, and these are the peoples that the Roman Empire typically would have like conquered and dominated, but they managed to say, nah, we're gonna stay over here. But there was evidence that these people did do trades with the Romans, so it's probable that they worked out, like, we keep our autonomy, we'll do trade with you. We won't cause any issues.
I'd cause all the issues.
Right. The religious significance of bog bodies is what we will get into next. The bogs seem to have held a sort of liminal significance. People would leave votive offerings for the other world. And I think we've talked about this in one of our other videos. The other world is like the Fey realm. This is very much like Irish, Gaelic, Druid kind of terminology. They're leaving offerings for the Fae when they do this.
You just reminded me.
These offerings were things like bronze neck rings, wristlets, or ankle rings. Sometimes, rarely, these items would have been made of gold. There is an archaeologist whose name is P.V. Glaub. He believes that these offerings were to gods for fertility and good fortune. This belief leads many to believe the Iron Age bog bodies were also put in the bog, but as human sacrifices. Although there are also reports that people, criminals, were executed in this manner also.
Kinky.
So with modern day technology, we are able to kind of look at the forensics of, how the bodies ended up there and kind of determine more of what may have happened. So the bodies are found to often be pinned in place by sticks or stones. Sometimes these objects are just placed like on top of the body, or they're placed in like a cross formation to like hold them down.
I wonder if that's where the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me came from.
I'm pretty sure that's probably came from stoning.
You know that makes sense. That also makes sense.
Or in some cases too, they would take sticks and they would fork them into the peat and like make almost like a basket, like an upside down basket, and it was used to hold the body to the bottom. Many of the bodies showed signs of being stabbed, bludgeoned, hanged, or strangled, or a combination of all of these things.
Murder.
There were also a few instances of beheadings and torture. So I'm pretty sure there was one instance where there wasn't a bog body, but there was like a bog head. Like they cut their head off and threw the head in the peat.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Forensics have also been able to determine that most of the bog bodies were members of the upper class. They literally said eat the rich, okay?
It's always the rich.
And the reason they're able to like discern this is because when you look at the bodies, because these bodies are like really well preserved. This is a form of natural mummification. So, like I said, there's the oldest one where the flesh is still on the body. They're there where the flesh has not been eaten away by the acidic minerals and stuff in the bog. So we can find things. We find things. So what leads us to believe that they're upper class is their fingernails are well manicured, and the proteins that we're able to find in their hair indicates like consistent good nutrition, which is only something you typically find in upper class people of that time. So yeah, we may not know why they were put there, but a good bit of them were human sacrifices or criminals. They used this as like their preferred form of execution.
Understandable.
So how the bog works to preserve the bodies is in the bog there is no oxygen. There is a lot of decomposing moss, which is spadum. Spadum is the name of the moss that's decomposing. It compresses to form peat, which is a cold anoxic substrate, which means there's no oxygen. The water in the bogs are highly acidic. This prevents bacteria from breaking down body tissues. Spangic acid naturally tans the bodies. So, like, basically it makes you beef jerky. In a lack of better way to say that.
Yes, I do so love a good bog jerky, man.
And something that, I was thinking of as I was writing this out was, when you think of a bog, you're like, what's the difference between a bog and a swamp and a marsh? Because they're all land covered in water. So I'm going to tell you.
Biography lesson. No.
Geography. Yes, I got you. Bogs are acidic, nutrient-poor wetlands. These areas are sustained by rainwater and is where dead plant matter accumulates as peat. Swamps are forested, nutrient-rich wetlands. They are fed by slow-moving rivers or streams. This helps keep the water and soil mineral-rich and nutrient-dense. And marshes are dominated by grasses, reeds, and cattails. They are fed by coastal tides, surface water, or ponds. They are typically found along shallow edges of lakes, rivers, or coastlines. Now, some ecological importance, because figured why not tell you guys that. Bogs are what are referred to as carbon sinks. So what this means is they store carbon in as peat. So it's not released into the atmosphere, and it actually helps our carbon footprint, which is really cool. They also act as flood prevention because they regulate the flow of water into valleys, and they host a lot of unique flora and fauna, a lot like the pitcher plants and Venus flytraps. You get a lot of your carnivorous plants from bogs.
I love that.
Swamps are nesting and breeding grounds for a majority of migrant birds, fish, and amphibians, and they are pollution filtration. So they're a natural sponge or filter for toxins in the environment.
Oh yeah.
Marshes are a lot of the same with swamps. They act as ocean filtration, a nursery habitat, and they also act as flood control. So a lot of these areas, I mean, they're very vital to the environment. But the reason that swamps and marshes cannot do what a bog does is because they don't have the right chemical properties.
Makes sense.
And that is what I have.
So my next one is for the Tibet Buddhists. So the Tibet Buddhists believe in the value of sending their loved ones' souls toward heaven. The bodies are left outside, often cut into pieces, so birds and other animals may devour them. This is dual purpose. It eliminates the now empty vessel of allowing the release of the soul while also embracing the circle of life.
So I guess to go along with the Tibetan Buddhists, this form of burial practice is called sky burial, and it's because the bodies are placed on top of mountains, typically to decompose or be consumed by the wildlife, like you said.
Lords.
Typically these birds are vultures. Vultures are actually very sacred to this practice, which is really cool. I also found that sky burial can be referred to as Jator, I think is how you say this, which signifies giving alms to the birds.
I love that. That is so cool.
Let's see. I don't want to re-say what you've said, but let's see. So this practice is full of Buddhist symbolism. The main thing is that it covers the principle of impermanence and the life and death cycle that they believe in, which is when you die, your soul is released. Like the body is just a vessel for the soul. Once you die, your soul has to be released and your vessel is just empty. So like it means nothing, basically, which is why they don't care if your body is given back to nature because there's nothing there for them. Let's see. Giving the body back to nature is seen as helping to free the soul from its physical confines, aiding in its journey to reach rebirth or enlightenment. And it's also seen as an act of compassion towards other forms of life because you're helping feed them.
Oh yes. I wish to feed the animals.
Also, it covers like the principle of living in harmony with the environment because you're offering a very minimal impact type burial because you're not leaving any sort of an impact on the earth.
Exactly, you're just feeding the wildlife.
Vultures are sacred and they're seen as a soul carrier from earth to heaven.
I love that.
And let's see. This rite serves as a reminder of life's transient nature and the intimate connection we share with the world around us. It invites us to celebrate the continuity of life, offering a perspective that sees death as an opportunity for spiritual liberation and a return to the earth that nourishes us. That information did come from Return Home and some other cultures.
You got your information from returnhome.com? I got mine from Britannica.
And I should say that the body's information came from Wikipedia, by the way.
Wow.
But some other cultures that practice sky burial are, of course, Tibet. There's Qinghai, Sichuan, Mongolia, Nepal, Bhutan.
Nepal?
Yeah. And some parts of India, such as Sikkim and Zanskar. And then as for Famadihana, this is practiced by, as she said, the Malagasy people of Madagascar. It's believed by the society that the spirit cannot travel to the afterlife until the body has fully rejoined the earth and the bones have turned to dust, which is why this is a big thing. It says that this ritual is carried out every few years, typically in the winter months.
Makes sense. They probably smell less.
Yeah. So the steps on how this is practiced is the graves are exhumed, the bodies are carefully wrapped in straw mats, and then they are carried above the heads of the family back into the village. The body is then laid out, and if you're exhuming like multiple ancestors at the same time, they're typically laid out together, side by side. The bodies are then cleaned and dressed in fresh silk shrouds. Very important that it's silk, because they're like, we honor the dead. This is our family.
They gotta be in their pajamas. They just want pajamas.
Right. During this process, at this time, the families will ask for blessings. They'll share news or stories with their ancestors because to them, their ancestor, their soul is still there. They're still alive. They're still part of the family until that body is no more. So they're like, hey, Grandma, I got married. You know, stuff like that.
Meet your grandkid.
Meet your grandkids, yeah. Once the bodies are then redressed and cleaned, there is a huge feast. This rite lasts about 2 days, and then the family will return the loved ones to the tomb. I got that information from Funeral Guide.
Malagasy people in Madagascar perform a ritual called Famadihana. Every 5 to 7 years, they open the tombs of their dead, replace the wrappings with fresh ones, but they give them fresh burial clothes and then dance with them near the tomb while music plays. It's best translated to turning of the bones, meant to speed decomposition and push the spirit of dead to the afterlife.
Okay, cool. So the next one that I have is short and sweet. It's parade. And there are a few different cultures that actually can fall into this for different reasons. So the cultures are New Orleans, Varanasi, cremation, which is in India. So I do apologize if I butchered Varanasi.
I'm pretty sure you butchered it.
I'm pretty sure I did too. I apologize. Dia de Muertos, which is in Mexico.
Yes,
military processions, and Balinese Hindu, which is in Bali. So for New Orleans, this process is a brass band will lead mourners from the home or the church where the funeral is taking place all the way to the cemetery. While they're leading the procession, the band will play sorrowful, mournful tunes until the body is laid to rest. Once they are laid to rest and they're leaving, the music turns upbeat and celebrating. This is done because at the start, they're acknowledging the grief and the loss. They're acknowledging that a life has ended, people are sad. But then at the end, they also are like, we need to celebrate the life that was lived, kind of thing. Bear in the side. I'm going to say bear in the side. That sounds a little bit better.
Okay.
We're moving on. During this, the deceased are dressed in brightly colored clothes. The colors are meant to highlight the virtues of the departed. So some examples are red equals purity and yellow equals knowledge. So, and there's more, but those were the two that were given. The body is then paraded through the streets to the cremation grounds. During the parade, there is typically also chanting that goes along with this. The parade and the chanting is meant to help encourage the soul's salvation and end the cycle of reincarnation. Dia de Muertos is celebrated from October 31st to November 2nd. Families and participants host large, colorful parades where participants dress as skeletons to honor and reconnect with the deceased. This is also, I think, a good... And I say this as someone who, has obviously never had any connection to Dia de Muertos. I think if you look at the Disney movie Coco, they show you a little bit of, what goes into celebrating the dead.
Man, that movie always makes me cry!
Yeah. So I don't know how accurate Coco is to the celebrations and rites that go into this, but I do think, you could probably find a good bit of information there. The military, they have a good bit of different kinds of processions that they do for the dead. All of them are meant to honor fallen soldiers and their sacrifices. And then the Balinese Hindu, there is a ceremony which is called Nagabin. This is where the deceased are placed in large, elaborate coffins shaped like bulls or other mythical animals. Then they are carried through the streets with singing and dancing. The effigy and body are then set ablaze.
That's really cool.
Right? And that information on this burial type is from Britannica.
It's Egyptian!
Woo! Mummification!
I love mummies. Mummy!
You should go watch The Mummy with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. I love it.
He's so delicious. He's a delicious man.
I don't know, making another one with the original cast. It could literally be nothing but them in the little Walmart go-kart, just beep, beep, for 2 hours, and I would be like, yes!
Alright, Egyptian! Yes! Yay, mummy! And no, we're not talking about Rhea Ripley.
That would be mommy.
Mommy.
Get on with Egyptian.
Okay, since you asked so rudely. So, what the Egyptians did was they removed all moisture from the body, leaving a dry corpse that doesn't easily decay. Best preserved mummies are from the 18th to 20th dynasties of the New Kingdom, so that would have been 1570 to 1075 BCE. The process of mummification took a total of 70 days. Yeah, it's been a hot minute. And there were special priests who worked as embalmers who treated and wrapped the body. These priests were educated in not only the correct burial rituals and prayers, but also in human anatomy. They kind of had to know it all.
Yeah, go them.
Honestly, it sounds really cool.
It does.
You're like, oh yeah, let me just like give you this blessing and also remove your kidney. Send a shiver through your liver. So, the first thing they did was they had to remove all internal parts in order to slow decomposition.
Yes. And what did they do with the parts?
They put them in a jar.
What's the jar?
I have it later in my notes. I'm not there yet. First, I'm going to talk about what they did to remove the brain. They would put some special hooks up your nose, and then they just take the brains out with it.
They would go,
Oh, I wonder if it actually sounded like that. Probably not.
maybe. Probably sounds more like making like a stew.
Yeah. Or like stirring mac and cheese.
Maybe. Yeah. There'd be an occasional like scraping with like the hooks hitting the cranium.
Yeah. Which they had to be very careful with doing this, because if they did it incorrectly, it would severely disfigure the face.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They used to take a masked mold of their face and put it between like the bandages and more bandages, so they would have like
A death mask.
yeah.
But it would be like prominent in the wrapping, so you
Yeah.
can still see it. Yeah, that's pretty fucking dope.
Right? I didn't write that down, I just remembered it.
Yo, the Egyptians did it all before the Victorians did, okay?
The most important thing you could do to the Egyptians was to die.
For real, honestly.
It really was. Only organ left was the heart. Do you know why?
I do not.
It was because,
Oh, because it gets get weighed. It gets weighed by Anubis.
essentially, but also because it was believed to be the center of a person, of their being and their intelligence.
Okay. So they definitely thought that emotions were over. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Why? And now we're to the organ sorting jars called canopic jars.
Yeah, they were.
I love a good canopic jar.
And just know that if you go tomb raiding with a whole bunch of people and you find some, don't open them.
Don't open them, yeah.
Don't open them. Because then a mummy's going to come, and whatever part was in that jar that you opened, they're going to take.
Although, so they do have like multiple jars, and each jar like holds different stuff. So like, I want to say they put the stomach in one by itself, and then they put some in the same, but there were some that they were like absolutely have to be by themselves, which is really neat. I like
Yeah.
that. And then they would cover the body with natron, a type of salt. Great at removing moisture. Would really just
Definitely turns you into jerky.
oh yeah. And then once it dried, they would just wash it off of the body, and they would
Oh, so we add moisture back. Got it.
right. No,
What was the
they,
point?
Like they wipe it off, and they like make sure that like the body's clean. So they give it kind of like a whore bath.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick little rinse.
We're just going to wipe that off.
Good clothes. Oh, they're rolling in their graves. Their tombs.
They're sarcophagi.
A lot of times the body was stuffed with linens so that it didn't look like super sunken in, especially because they removed other organs.
There was nothing in there.
Exactly. And they would usually do a cut down the side of them, actually.
Alright. I mean, honestly, would probably help if they fucked up and you weren't dead. Let's just put that back in there. So, yeah.
For real. So, to continue,
Yes.
whenever they're like wrapping these people up, really wrapping it up
Yes.
on their life, wrapping their life up. I had to. Okay, sorry, it's really bad. Amulets are often placed for protection, and even coated amulets are being placed for protection between the linens.
Mm-hmm.
So like they're literally wrapping their hands and they're going finger by finger.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna put it in.
It'd be like me putting up a Christmas tree. He's like, I'm born here.
They look at the wife and they're like, hey, what's your birthstone? Sapphire? Okay. So to continue,
Yeah.
they would also often coat the bodies in a warm resin, and everything that they need for the afterlife is put in that tomb.
Yes.
Like in prayers and on paper, because they're gonna be able to like read it off in the afterlife, and it just looks weird.
Well, the stuff was also put in there, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they would make sure that the list was like in the sarcophagi.
Because that's what made it official. You might have a whole bunch of shit in there, but if you didn't write that shit down, it ain't yours.
And then I got cold storage mummification, because I got so many different types of mummification. Okay, cold storage mummification preserved the body without having to completely embalm. Found in the Alps, the 5,300-year-old Otzi, the Iceman. Some still use cryopreservation, hoping to be revived by future technological advances. This was also used by the Pazyryk culture for elites preserved in complete blocks of ice, even preserving intricate animal tattoos, which is super sick. Another one is the Zeleny Yar necropolis, 12th through 13th centuries, wrapping their dead in multiple layers of birch bark, cocoons, and fur, allowing internal organs to stay well intact. And then there's the Papanugi! Instead of organ removal and wrapping in linens like the Egyptians, they placed the dead in sitting positions over roaring fires. So sorry. It's kind of funny because I'm just imagining someone putting their grandma on with those pig spikes.
Oh my god.
I don't mean to, but it is funny. But they placed the dead in a sitting position over roaring fires, smoking them for weeks until blackened to slowly churn all fluids, and to preserve the skin in the tropical climate. I didn't put an E on climate. To climate. This is mostly done for tribal leaders, war commanders, or heavily respected individuals. And that's all I got.
I have hanging coffins. This is prevalent in the Philippines. Typically, the elderly carve their own coffins out of hollowed logs. If they are too weak or ill, family members will prepare the coffins instead. The dead are placed inside the coffins, and the coffins are then brought to a cave for burial, or to a cliff, wherever you choose to put them. Burial is days... Sorry.
Dazed and confused?
Yeah. So with this process, the mourning can take... it's expected to be days of mourning. There's butchering livestock and preparing the body for entombment. After the, festivities, for lack of a better term there, I'm sorry. A family member will be chosen and they will carry the body to the cave or the cliff. Carrying the dead is believed to transfer luck, blessings, talents to the family. The Sagada people have been practicing this for over 2,000 years. It is believed that the higher the body is placed, the greater chance of their spirits reaching a higher nature in the afterlife. This is from atlasobscura.com. And the other thing was Victorian, which I found a few sites with some interesting stuff on those. Let's see here. Let's see, some superstitions around death really came from the Victorians.
The bells.
The bells, yeah. So curtains would be drawn and clocks would be stopped at the time of death. Mirrors would be covered with veiling to prevent the deceased spirit from getting trapped. A wreath of laurel, yew, or boxwood tied with black ribbons was hung on the front door to alert passerbyers that a death had occurred. The body was watched over every minute until burial, hence the custom of waking. The wake also served as a safeguard from burying someone who was not dead but in a coma. This is also kind of the time period where we get the graveyard shift, because there was a lot of times that they would accidentally bury people who were not dead, and so they got in the habit of tying a string around someone's wrist and attaching it to a bell above ground, and someone would have to sit in the graveyard and listen for the bell, because then they'd have to go dig them up. Whoops.
Shit.
It's okay.
Which is funny because if they pack the dirt too much, that's not going to do anything.
They tried. They tried. Most wakes lasted 3 to 4 days to allow relatives to arrive from far away. The use of flowers and candles helped mask unpleasant odors before embalming became common. In 19th century Europe and America, the dead were carried out of the house feet first in order to prevent the spirit from looking back into the house and beckoning another member of the family to follow them.
Okay.
Family photographs were also sometimes turned face down to prevent any of the close relatives and friends of the deceased from being possessed by the spirit of the dead. There's also a whole thing about yawning at a wake or a funeral, because it's believed that if you're yawning, you release your spirit and the devil has the chance to inhabit your body. That was pretty cool. Grave robbery by the resurrectionist men, who were often doctors, was a problem because they would use the bodies as cadavers for dissection classes.
Dude, Frankenstein!
Yeah. Bricking over a grave was a way of guaranteeing some security after death. There were funeral biscuits, which were wrapped in white paper and sealed with black sealing wax and given to guests as favors.
That reminds me of the goodie bag I got from my uncles.
Yeah, this is probably where a lot of our, like, having people over and eating after funeral. Let's see, there is Fisk metallic burial cases, which were airtight cast iron coffins patented by Almond Dunbar Fisk in 1848.
Those are the ones with... Yeah!
They are designed to look like Egyptian sarcophagus, and it features a glass viewing window. It allowed for long-distance transportation and delayed burial without embalming, while famously deterring grave robbers. So the design of these is it's a cast iron, like the whole thing is cast iron.
And it's heavily sealed with lead.
Yeah. Airtight seals which slowed decomposition and prevented the spread of disease from the deceased.
A good example of this is if you watch the newest Frankenstein movie, his mother is carried out in one.
Yes. There is also, with the Victorians, I know I'm running through this like really fast, but there's so much with Victorians that we could go over, and I'm running out of time on my phone. The Victorians also did go through like a mummy craze. This was actually, I did not know this, but it was fueled by Napoleon's 1798 Egyptian campaign, and it was known as Egyptomania. This is where we get, like, a lot of people theorize that the reason we don't find mummies now is because Egyptians dug them all up and then ate them.
Yeah.
Let's see. They would take, like, amulets, fragments of bone, linen bandages, all these sorts of things as party favors. They would grind up the mummies and use them in, like, teas and medicine. They would use them in poultices to treat wounds. Yeah. They would also use them in, like, paints and makeup. They would, because the powder became known as mummy brown or Egyptian brown, and it would be, like, mixed in with paint. I think it's supposed to be, like, a brown. It says it provided a rich, fleshy pigment.
I don't like that.
Me either. This is also the time when we got the curse of the pharaohs. So I'm pretty sure, like, it was like, stop taking our mummies, or you will die. A lot of people did die. And a lot of them were like, oh, it's the curse of the pharaohs. But in all, actually, it's just that you're eating people who are thousands of years dead. It's stupid.
Maybe don't
Do that.
cannibal
Don't
thousands
do
of
that.
years old people.
So yeah, and honestly, we could do a video just on the Victorians, which we may do. I don't know, but we're kind of out of time today. I know that was the last one that I had. Before it cuts off, let's go ahead and do a closer.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, and as always, our brains are yours to pick.